housing is such a complex issue right now because of the last crisis. We
Right.
saw the bubble, we saw the collapse. Then we've seen, I guess, a shortage that has really pushed up prices and kept people out. Is it at another crisis point today?
Well, I'd say, the fundamentals of housing are pretty good, but the affordability question really is a crisis for many people. Among renters, for example, half of all renters spend 30% of their income or more on housing. A quarter of all renters spend half of their income on housing or more. And then on the home buyer side, as you noted, home prices have been going up. It's been much tougher for people, especially at the entry level,
Right.
to be able to buy that first home.
And Diana Olick has reported for us time and again about how there's a shortage of inventory at the entry-level points of the market, how some of the baby boomers are competing for that supply because they're downsizing, and the builders aren't necessarily keeping up. I'm just surprised. I mean, if it were my business and I saw that there was a shortage there, I would be doing everything I could to get more supply onto the market.
Well, I think the challenge is it's really hard to do that at the lower end, at the entry level of the market. When you think about it, for home builders, there are a bunch of forces that are making it more difficult for them to participate at that end of the market. There's a labor shortage in terms of building homes. There's land acquisition costs, which are extremely high. There's all kinds of regulatory and zoning challenges. So they really focus on building to a market that can absorb all of those costs, and that means that they're really focused at the higher end.
And this is having huge impacts on the way that the housing stock and homeownership in this country could change. You're seeing this yes in my backyard movement where people look at Minneapolis. They're pushing to allow for multifamily development, for instance, and saying, well, we shouldn't have this, just exclusive single family home building when you could fit more people and more price points in. Could this remake the way we think about home ownership?
I think it's going to force us to rethink a lot of those issues because, the fact is the only answer to this question is increasing supply. We have to just create more housing stock than we have in the past. For the last 10 years, every year we have failed to build enough housing to actually meet the increased demand within that year. So I think Freddie Mac has estimated that we're about 2.5 million units short of what we need in order to just have market equilibrium.
And so what happens in the meantime? Prices have actually started to moderate. The price gains that we saw really topped out a couple of years ago. There might be some factors like salt that are a reason why. Should we expect prices to take off again or not?
I think we should expect prices to continue to increase. Unfortunately, they've been increasing at a faster rate than wages, so that's a challenge for people. But the real challenge is that at that entry level, prices, I think, will continue to increase faster than any other segment.
And finally, last time around, when the political goal was increasing home ownership, it was a contributor to the financial crisis because the underwriting standards declined. There was just the sense of more is better, and there was no scrutiny by Wall Street on these. The whole story we're well aware of. If we start again saying that we want home ownership to be a goal and pushing in that direction, maybe loosening underwriting standards again or what have you, are we creating the seeds of another crisis down the road?
Well, I think people really have learned the lessons of the last crisis, and I don't think anyone's advocating that you solve this problem by lowering credit standards. Credit standards are really at an appropriate place. What we need to do is think about housing stock as being part of the national infrastructure. We need to figure out how to create more supply. And I think some innovations around manufacturing costs might help us get there.